so welcome to Markers and Milestones, the Aftershow. This is where we explore educational opportunities for young men and women beyond traditional college, all through a Christ-centered perspective. I'm Leigh Bortons, and I'm with my co-host Amanda Kleist. Today's June 19th, 2023, and we just finished interviewing Barnard of Southeastern University. Amanda, I did not know so much about his background. I learned so many interesting things on this interview. What did you learn about?
Oh, I didn't even know there was like a project management specialty in theming. That was totally new. It makes perfect sense. But yes, it's a specialty to be able to develop the enclosures in zoos and theme parks and all this infrastructure around that. So that was news to me.
Yeah, I always think it's really amazing when you drive down even like an old Southern highway and you see a fruit stand that's made out of this great big strawberry.
Right.
So you had to figure out how to make that. And yet it's not your normal 2x4 construction. So that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yes. And, you know, what I also appreciated that he didn't state, but that means you had to work with so many different materials, with so many different needs, from whether it's certain types of animals or aquatic animals or the volume of people going through, and then the different exterior physical environments, because most of these are way big in the air as opposed to interior spaces that he was talking about, whether it's the hot sun of California or the hot sun and humidity of Florida. Yeah, it just sounded fascinating.
Well, the one place that I see it all the time is when you go to either more wealthier suburbs, but more often in bigger cities, I'll see really different architectural features. And I'll wonder, like, where did they get that material and why did they think to use that material? And something that I think a lot of young people who are in the trades don't know is that if you take a certification program or get your what they call it, AS, Associates of Science, or your BS in construction management or construction technology, that one of the kind of courses you have to take is material science. Correct. Where you learn about all the various kinds of things you can construct with. And it doesn't have to just be things you can order from Lowe's Hardware.
And in fact, some contractors won't like Lowe's Hardware, but
yeah,
you know,
that's right.
The other part of this is then you might get to talk with interesting architects too, because the invention piece from the classical side of inventing it, you have the invention of the concept, but then you have actually the invention of the materials that are appropriate to make that concept three-dimensional. So you really can see the classical arc in the rhetoric stage here. So in this, beautiful.
Yeah. So one of the things I was thinking that's a little difficult for them, because Southeastern University is just starting this, is not that they're going to have trouble getting partners. It sounds like that's not a problem. And I don't think they'll have trouble getting the students once they've got the advertising and everything laid out. But making that connection through an online community, it's one thing to meet someone from Zoom. It's another thing to actually go work on a project with them. And so I'm kind of wondering how it would work if you don't have a local apprenticeship already established, and you know how they're going to be able to just manage that. So I'm some kid that calls from Moore County, North Carolina, where I live, and I would like to do that program, but I don't really know how to go get the apprenticeship here. I'm wondering how they'll be able to help them. But other than that, yeah, go ahead.
And the other part of that is, so you get an apprenticeship, but something doesn't work perfectly, which, because there's humans involved, you can pretty much assume something won't work perfectly. And so then how does SEU help figure out whether it's the student not applying or it's that person who's giving the opportunity not knowing how to work with a student, right? So there's some pieces that'll be interesting for us to see how they learn through. The other thing I'm really interested in is how, if and when, I think it's a when, we get to the conversation of how can we change the culture? Because one of the things Glenn mentioned is it can feel and is adversarial at times in some of these industries. And our kids should be aware that some of these roles that people go into, service industry or project management, there can be a little bit more push and pull that isn't as kind as maybe your challenge classroom or your classical school's classroom. So it's okay when things aren't as kind as they were when you were growing up. It's how we get to respond as Christians in that instance. So that's an interesting thing that I think all our kids in whatever field they're going into need to just be aware they're going to walk towards that.
Well, and the other thing is, if there's an error on a piece of paper, it's pretty inexpensive to correct it. But if it's made with some construction materials that cost thousands of dollars and a couple weeks of labor before the error is caught, somebody normally gets fired or has to take the heat. So the contractor may have to lose the money, or the homeowner may have to pay extra the cost. And so that's when, things can go wrong. We just finished a remodel, and when we were all done, and this was on me. I told the electrician where I wanted certain light switches to be. And so 2 days ago when I was there and it was finished, I went, I have to walk 40 feet to turn the light on and off. That was dumb. Well, I knew that was my fault.
Right.
What if it had been the electrician who had
Right.
made that dumb decision, right?
Right.
So, and then another thing I just don't like at all is HVAC guys who stick the thermostat in the middle of a wall. That's the very wall you wanted to use for artwork.
Yes. That makes no sense. I agree.
Right. So you do need some of that architectural design, as well as just plain old squaring up lumber and knowing how to do purchasing and project management.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
trades are tough.
They are, but they're also rewarding. And one of the things that some people reflect they find very satisfying is your finish line's very clear.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And some of our conversations and some of our big ideas, we can keep thinking for, and maybe it will be fun to do it for eternity. But some of us want something that we can finish, see the finish line, have the well done, have the it is finished statement happen in our lives as we reflect on either the garden or Christ's work.
Sure.
One of the things that I also see some of our students asking is to think about doing the trades for a period of time so that they can go to whatever Christian college they want to and not have the debt, because they're looking at, rather than having a joint work experience or a co-op experience like there are in some universities, essentially funding their college or their grad school this way. So there seems so much potential here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just the innovation that's occurring thanks to, I would say, COVID, the decline of the dollar, the rise of the internet, the good and bad of AI. I mean, there's just so many things that are happening. And like, just a reminder to our listeners, if you listen to Philip Johnson from Thales College, and how those students are pretty much paying for their college by being apprentices at the college itself. So there's just so many ways to go about funding a engineering or trades kind of education. And that's another thing I think parents forget sometimes is trades can lead to engineering degrees. Trades can lead to science degrees. It's just getting your feet wet sometimes before you trust or have the funds and time to devote to the maybe more difficult academics.
Well, and I totally agree with that. And actually, the thing I did not ask him, because it didn't seem like this was that conversation, but I'd be so interested in how a 15-year-old, before they start working, at whatever fast food job they're at, could get a taster about apprenticing at some of these during their last part of their college. That'd be something that could give them so much richness. And I haven't figured that part out yet, but it's a question I'm interested in the answer to.
Yeah. Do you mean the last part of their high school years?
Yeah, high school careers. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately, in this country, I'm probably worldwide, I don't know, but a lot of, because of the child labor laws, a lot of things are illegal to do that young men just naturally did until 20, 30 years ago. Things like car repairs, just getting together and fixing their own car. They can do that now, but they can't go work with somebody to do that once they're really good at it. And it's just a real shame. So that's one thing we should also private conversation about as the months go on here is how will the labor laws change as we have fewer and fewer employees?
Yeah.
And they're going to have to ease up on things. Otherwise, work's just not going to get done.
Right.
Yes. So I see a lot of hope and opportunity for young people who really care about serving others.
Absolutely. And care about taking care of others, not only serving them, but taking care of. Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, that was a good catch up. Thank you for the after show, and I'll see you next week.
Yeah. Have a great week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.